Hi, I'm Will. For those of you who don't know me, I write weird music and play a lot of board games, and I read a lot of books. So, in short, I'm kind of a nerd. But it's been a while since I did my last top 10 books video. And I've read a lot of books in the meantime, so without further ado, let's get to it. Number 10, The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich by William Shirer. My number 10 was difficult for me, whereas everything hereafter clearly belonged on my list this time around. Any of my honorable mentions could have filled this slot, and none of them felt like they had to. I gave it to Shirer's work, with the caveat that if you want a less gripping but deeper delve, you should consider Richard Evans' Third Reich trilogy instead. This is doubtless the more interesting read and the better jumping off point, but it was also first published in 1960 and so is less complete than Evans' much more recent work. The Nazi mentality is one I think people would benefit from better understanding. MAGA is not the same as the Nazi movement, but some of its similarities are unsettling, to say the least. Anyway, my number 10. Number 9, How to Teach Physics to Your Dog by Chad Orzel. I believe this one was in my honorable mentions last time. I've yet to find a more intelligible treatment of quantum physics. That is, quantum physics without the math, because I'm not there yet. Emmy, the dog, is gone now. But I still have Sam. So maybe having a German Shepherd mix of my own endears this one to me. Regardless, this is a great little pop science book. I have upstairs neighbors who make a lot of noise in like spurts. So I'm making coffee because I'm gonna be up all night doing this. And in the process of making coffee, I realized that I forgot about my tea hours ago when I was playing Root Digital and reading about Lewis and Clark. It's done. Number 8, The Complete History of Jack the Ripper by Philip Sugden. I often see this book discussed alongside Donald Rumbelow's treatment of the same subject. Having read both, I think this is the one to go with. It feels meticulously researched, like serious science vibes, but at the same time it captivates like a detective novel might. I think everyone's familiar with Jack the Ripper, right? Serial killer in late 1880s London. Never conclusively identified. Probably never will be. That guy. I think I actually read this shortly after I did my last top 10 video, so... Number 7, The Shadow War Chronicles by Chris Claremont and George Lucas. This is no sweeping epic like The Lord of the Rings, but Elora is one of the most lovable characters I've found in fiction. If you're not familiar, 1988 saw the release of a film called Willow. The events in these pages and reels, I guess it's an audio cassette. I don't know. Anyway, the story here takes place roughly 15 years after the movie. And this is one of those rarities with the perfect ending. And I'm not gonna rave about it here because I did that last time. Suffice it to say, I love this, and it fits very nicely with my number one. Number 6, House of Leaves by Mark Danielewski. This is psychological horror, but it's less a book than it is a work of art. I don't know how else to describe this. This is art. At the risk of coming across as supercilious, which is a word I just learned, I think that's a statement you have to experience to understand. I know I did. Well, that is rated unless you're prone to anxiety attacks, in which case, maybe skip it. Because it feels very real. It's about a house that is impossible. Riveting synopsis. Well, the inner dimensions exceed its perimeter. But seriously, if you like horror, and if you want a candidate for most artistic book you've ever read. Number 5, Battle Cry of Freedom by James McPherson. I think if you're going to study American history, more Americans at least ought to, one of your first stops should be Abraham Lincoln. He was an extraordinary, if flawed man, and his character serves, I think, as a reliable template for what it means to be a good leader. This is the Oxford History of the United States volume on the Civil War, so it's long, but to my mind, unquestionably worth the investment. That's a cool noise. Number 4, Bobby Kennedy, The Making of a Liberal Icon. As I mentioned in my previous top 10 video, I don't particularly care for the subtitle. I mean, I'm progressive, but I think it implies more bias than I remember reading. RFK had the potential, I think, to be another great unifying president. He was assassinated before he had the chance to prove or disprove that. And I think that's the key word here, potential. Bobby was another flawed man, but with the potential and willingness to learn, to change, and ultimately to be something more than ordinary. Which is, I think, what all of us want to some degree, right? Number 3, The British Are Coming by Rick Atkinson. I find the American Revolution fascinating, in part because I enjoy the study of extraordinary people, and this time period was like a crucible in which extraordinary people were forged, not least of which was George Washington, yet another figure I think a great many of us would benefit from familiarizing ourselves with. a lot of Americans, at least, seem to have it in their heads that we sewed a "Don't Tread on Me" flag and threw some tea off a boat and then whooped the British with an army of trappers and tobacco farmers. And that's not what happened. This is the first volume, spanning the years 1775 through 77 in a trilogy. And as of the recording of this video, the only one that has yet been released. So I'm excited to see where it goes. I have read a lot on this subject, and this book is the best I've found, bar none. It really is incredible. So, on to my number 2. Number 2, Cosmos by Carl Sagan. I almost put Demon Haunted World here this time because I feel like its insights are particularly appropriate right now. But I didn't. I stuck with Cosmos. As I mentioned years ago, Sagan's enthusiasm is infectious. You read this and you want to go be a scientist. It's that good. It's dated now, but it still carries with it that spark, and probably always will. Not only is his writing infused with magic, Sagan himself was an exceptional person, an inspiration, a man worth emulating. And I think that's pretty cool. Number 1, The Hero with 1,000 Faces by Joseph Campbell. Last but not least, mythology. This is where you go to learn how to write not only structurally sound stories, but beautiful prose. House of Leaves has a dash of this kind of poetry hidden in its word choice. Hero with 1,000 Faces is suffused with it. This book breaks down what makes for a lasting story. And even if you're not looking to write the next great epic, this will give you the tools to recognize what could be. Having the ability to accurately assess the value of something, or lack thereof, is critical in life. Books can help with that, especially the academic ones, but every once in a while fiction surprises me with a gem of inestimable value. We humans are finite. We only get so many heartbeats and then we check out. I think it's important not to waste them. Okay, it's late. I gotta get to bed. I'm doing this in a weird order. Maybe. I don't know if I'm gonna put this at the beginning or the end, but anyway. I gave myself 5 honorable mentions. 1, People's History of the United States by Howard Zinn. This is the book that Will Hunting recommends in Good Will Hunting. Yeah, it's good. 2, Breathless by David Quammen. This one just came out, I think, in 2022 and was Smithsonian, like on Smithsonian Mag's list of top 10 science books for 2022, I think. It's really good. It deals with COVID. The Foundation trilogy by Isaac Asimov, because, you know, it's Asimov. Conquest by Hugh Thomas, which deals with Cortez and the Mexicans, Montezuma, Cortez, and the Mexicans. I read that a long time ago, my goodness. And lastly, Richard Dawkins' Magic of Reality, which, yeah, it has really cool illustrations. I'm not sure how I feel about Dawkins all the time. He can be kind of a dick, but he writes really well, and, you know, yeah. So anyway, I'm so tired. Good night.